The last thing that we're going to look at is how billing works. And we're not going to cover everything related to billing in this video, as the billing system has a few different ways of working depending on how your prep center works. And so it's a very flexible system that's built to adapt to your needs rather than forcing you into any particular system. But the basics are that when you create an outbound shipment, like in the last video, we created this test shipment. And at the point where we created it on Amazon, this charge was added to the portal. And so if we jump into that charge, we see the details of that charge. So we can see here for each unit, it's giving us the total for that unit. And then as well, any additional services are incorporated. So you have your unit total and your total, including services, and that gives you all of the total charge here. So essentially, the way to think about billing is when a shipment is created. That's when created on FBA, I should say. That's when the client is actually charged. Now, the charge is different from an invoice where a client actually needs to make a payment. So you can decide to ask a client to pay in a few different ways. So you can ask them to pay on on a monthly basis. So in this case, it looks like this client is set up on a monthly cycle, meaning they're going to be billed in August for all of the charges that took place in July. And so all of these charges are currently in a pending state, meaning on August 1st, they're actually going to be added to an invoice, and that invoice will be sent to the client, whether that's automatically or whether that's done manually. You can set that up as you prefer. Or what I can do is I can just go ahead and charge this client right away. So I could just send an invoice whenever I want, kind of breaking the regular billing cycle to invoice a client if there's, maybe they did a lot of extra shipments and you want to bill them early for that. And it gives you a warning and it tells you the implications of that action. As well, if you want to just manually charge a client for something rather than tying that to a shipment, you can do that here. So if you did some additional services, maybe you did some consulting for a client, you can tie that right into your existing billing system. And so that's kind of just a handy thing to be able to keep everything under one roof. The other thing is that you can just use your existing services that you already have. So maybe your team forgot to put them on a outgoing shipment or on a particular item. So instead of trying to go back and figure everything out and figure out the exact charge for that, you can just note the number of items and say, forgot on shipment FBA 1234, and that'll just automatically calculate what needs to be charged for that. So you can see that here as an additional service that was charged for that client. So let's have a quick look at invoices. So why don't we charge this shipment? And that will create a invoice, and it will send, if you have it enabled to send an invoice, it'll send an invoice. And then now you have an invoice right here, which you can download, you can mark as paid once a client pays it, or we also have the ability for you to integrate with a credit card processing system so that the client can add their billing details to the portal and it will automatically bill their credit card. It just depends on your prep center. Some prep centers prefer the clients to pay via ACH or wire transfer. Some clients don't mind credit cards. So it's up to you how you want to organize your billing. Then the last thing, or a couple more things actually to look at in terms of billing, you can do an item charge adjustment. So this basically means for this particular client, you either want to give them a discount or an extra fee for items. So if it's a client who consistently sends, complicated items, and you've agreed with that client to add a extra charge to their base rate, you can go ahead and add that here. And then you can also, you can see that that is adjusted here under the client details as well. But you can also change the way that the client is billed. So if you want them to be billed monthly, you can bill them monthly. But you can also bill them manually. So that means every time you need to click that Charge Now button to generate an invoice for them. Or you can do it per shipment. So every time you ship out something, then the client will be invoiced for that. And then finally, in your team settings, in your account settings, you can decide whether or not you want clients to essentially be billed automatically, meaning they'll be sent an invoice, and that invoice will be automatically emailed to the client, or whether or not you want whether you would prefer to, if you want to validate the invoice before you send it, you could change this to no, and then you just hop into the billing section. You would download the invoice from the billing section and send that off to the client manually, using whatever system that you typically use, integrated with your accounting system, whatever it is. So that's how the billing system works.